Hello and welcome to another episode of lesser known TF2 tricks for pub play. I don't know why I'm doing this faux radio announcer voice, but I am super excited to bring you this episode, as I have not only an awesome lesser known pub style, but gameplay footage of an absolute master of the style. Today we're going to be looking at Blindpyro's Beggar's Bazooka based, say that 4 times fast, roaming soldier style. This style is absolutely deadly, and to pull it off you will need a Beggar's Bazooka, gunboats, an escape plan, and a lot of practice jumping with the Beggar's Bazooka and just getting used to its feel. To give a brief history on Blindpyro while we wait for the setup here, he is a UGC Highlander Platinum player for quality control and has been on that team since 2012. He frequently can be found in pubs and his style is very distinctive, and when you see him you generally remember him, because he usually comes crashing down on top of you and kills you repeatedly. My role here as the announcer who has not yet the skill with Soldier to pull off what he does is to point out some of his plays and decision-making process that goes into things like target acquisitions and fight predictions, basically give you a small look into his game sense. Now I'm just going to freeze the action for a second as his kill very clearly shows what the crux of this strategy is. Rewinding and slowing down the action, you can see that the rocket jump is performed by overloading the Beggar's Bazooka, and then the jump comes in from a hidden line of sight, dumping 3 rockets precisely where Blindpyro knows or suspects enemies being at. If additional enemies become a problem, he then loads single rockets either to fight or as an escape device. The overall result is that Blindpyro is an exceptionally mobile assassin class with amazing burst damage potential and excellent escape options. As you can see here, Blindpyro constantly is on the move and making good use of map resources such as health kits to allow him to keep up his mobility. This means he can almost always have the drop on enemies, whereas they cannot easily get in line of sight to kill him. Jumping in on this demo, he does a ton of damage with a 3 rocket strike and then neatly finishes him off with a direct rocket follow-up. Now take a look at his movement and positioning. He is surrounded by enemies here, but none of them are able to actually kill him because he is always ready to change position at a moment's notice, using rockets or the escape plan to get to safer ground. Knowing that the enemy has taken the first point, he opts to use the roof as his next staging area. There are lots of high ground advantages to be had here, and lots of sight blockers to make a 3 rocket strike come out of nowhere. This scout can't even keep up with his momentum, leading to the scout's demise. Seeing the cart progress, a 3 rocket strike on the pocketed heavy who doesn't even realize what's happening, with some follow-up shots, clears the cart easily, defending the all-important objective. There is more trouble on the roof though, so a quick run to the health kit is necessary. He makes a good target selection here, opting to go for the sandwich-eating heavy that he knows he can kill for sure, instead of the soldier that he would likely take a lot of damage from. He then easily escapes the other heavy that is in a threatening position, and makes another kill on a different unaware target. Here is one of the long jumps that is characteristic of the Beggar's Bazooka style. You can mid-air multi-rocket jump with the overloads, allowing you to cover immense distances not possible with normal rocket launchers without a wall to propel off of. The sniper doesn't even stand a chance. And here we see our hero's first death, brought on by 2 scouts and a medic. Rejoining the fray, he scores a good kill on the scout, and then escapes otherwise certain death by Pyro thanks to the gunboats. Blindpyro is so able to easily pinpoint where enemies are due to a variety of reasons. Audio cues in the environment such as gunfire, watching the movements and actions of his teammates, or just simple deduction to predict where his enemies are going to come next. It produces excellent results like this medic pick. Note that I am a spectator in this game, so I can see that enemy spy for what it is, but he cannot. It does not cost him this time though. He botches his double rocket jump a bit. In a lot of cases, the walls and roofs have invisible walls that can hinder your jumps, just like in Left 4 Dead when you play a hunter. Oddly enough, this style of playing soldier actually does kind of resemble a hunter in Left 4 Dead. This style of play works best on maps that have high skyboxes, or invisible walls in the sky, as the higher up you can get, the more freedom of motion you have, and the better your ambushes can be. The second death comes at his own hand as he crushes a rocket against a charging Pyro. Blindpyro versus Pyro point blank is going to result in some damage. Instantly back in the action though, this Pyro isn't quite so lucky. For a fraction of a moment there, you could see a sniper dot right on Blindpyro, which he manages to evade thanks to the escape plan. That same escape plan allows him to run right through additional enemies in his quest for health kits.
Oh no!
Will Blindpyro be able to defeat the robo-effect unusual wearing sniper with only 26 hit points? Or will he die a horrible death at the hands of the hat wearer? Find out on the next episode! Alright, just kidding, I don't produce episodic content. Well, at least partial episodic content.
Boo!
Absolute heartbreaker here. He misses his rocket burst, and as the sniper falls off the ledge, he manages to land the no-scope, killing our hero.
Sniper is dead!
Thanks for that, Heavy. So, getting back into the defense, Blindpyro establishes himself once again in a spot where he can gain access to health and ammo, whilst the Scout demonstrates the absolute worst thing you can do against a Bazooka soldier, running into choke points. This turns into a jump on a hapless demo man, and back into renewed interest in defending the cart. This is one thing that Blindpyro is excellent at that a lot of people tend to forget when they try alternative strategies in TF2. Actually making a reasonable effort to play the objectives. A market gardening soldier and Blindpyro might both be having fun at the same time, but Blindpyro has fun in such a manner that he's improving the gameplay experience for his teammates by playing in a manner that helps out the entire team, whereas a market gardener is really only playing for his own interests. We see the first of the sentries, and to foreshadow here, as a good team player, Blindpyro actually does a lot of sentry wrecking, which, included for your viewing pleasure, will be demonstrated in the attacking round, which is also a part of this episode. He also does a lot of medic wrecking, which is something that is notable because in an environment like this, speaking from the perspective of a heavy main, bombing in soldiers are usually fairly reasonably dealt with. In the case of what Blindpyro does, it almost always results in a dead medic or a medic trade for soldier, which means that he wins in either case. This is something unique to the Beggar's Bazooka in that not only does it pose a threat to the medic, it poses a huge threat to the heavy as well, because he can always kill your medic, escape, and come back to finish the job with a triple rocket burst, not something usually available to the normal roaming soldier loadouts. Demonstrated perfectly right here as he bombs into a heavy and finishes him off with little trouble. Now, Blindpyro has seen a sentry gun, and he does not like allowing those things to exist, so let's see how he deals with it. The direct approach in this case. The engineer is able to react quickly enough to get a Wrangler shield up, but the rocket burst tears him apart and leaves the sentry open to further attack.
Mission ends in 30 seconds.
Not satisfied that his teammates haven't destroyed the sentry, he swoops in for another pass on it, but this time doesn't achieve the effect he was hoping for. It is far too late for the blue team to be able to mount an opposition now. They've just been ravaged by Blindpyro and is now encroaching teammates for too long. And as the final nail in Blue's coffin is hammered in, Blindpyro jumps in and the enemies on the cart scurry away for safety. So, in between rounds here, let's just recap on some of the things that contributed towards Blindpyro's success in playing in his style. First thing that has to be pointed out is his exceptional awareness of what is going on around him. Some examples of this in his gameplay are sight, observing enemies in the distance and rapidly closing that distance via rocket jumps before the distracted enemies realize that he is now a threat. Hearing, listening for the sounds of enemies around sharp corners, or from differing elevations to allow him to pinpoint where his next jump and rocket burst should be. Knowledge, if there's a choke point where enemies are known for pouring out of, a rocket burst tossed into it will quite often find someone. And finally, teamwork. If your teammates are shooting or reacting towards something he can't directly see, he can often read this information through them or objectives. The second thing that is worth pointing out is his smart target acquisition and escape sense. Normally, a roamer soldier is expected to die a lot, but Blindpyro actually manages to get out of most of his tough scrapes alive, due to map knowledge. Setting up his base of operations and flight plan around ammunition and health boxes means that he is resistant to attrition damage. Target knowledge. He favors targets that are unaware or weakened over ones that can damage him directly, preferring to come back once the fog of war has settled back in for these targets. Spider sense. He knows who is out to get him by observing who is facing him, and by listening to environmental cues such as dead ringer or fail stab spies making noises near him, or snipers using SMGs to try and finish him off. This gives him an advance notice of when he should get out of a bad situation. And finally, weapon use. He has two effective shapes in the gunboats and escape plan and maximizes them. Now, in the attack, you'll notice that he instantly travels out of his spawn, strays over the enemy centering us with rockets, and has now managed to cause an enemy medic to basically waste an uber charge on him for no reason whatsoever. The whole time he's evading the demo man here, and just wasting his time as he flies back in to get a nice sentry pick.
The cart is nearing a checkpoint.
The cart is sure to have enemies near it blocking the progress, and that is a perfect time to dump a load of 3 rockets on it. Oh man, his attempt to rocket in is denied by a sniper getting a freak body shot, causing him to fly straight up in the air and crater on impact. In fact, he hit the ground so hard that it somehow messed up my field of view settings. So progress is being rapidly made here, and his team has managed to gain control of the roof. This is where things are going to get interesting, because the rest of Badwater tends to have lower skyboxes, which means he will have to rely on more upfront tactics. Blindpyro does notice, though, that he needs to do a little backtracking, because his teammates are currently struggling to deal with a pocketed heavy blocking the cart. The medic is no idiot and pops his Uber on sight of Blindpyro. However, Blindpyro is too fast for the heavy to kill, and he will wrap around as the Uber wears off and be instrumental in destroying this pocket pair. Just like that, both the heavy and medic fall. As he's one of the most mobile units on the battlefield, he checks around to make sure no enemies went unmissed in the cleanup battle. He checks around for engineers trying to build back teleporters, or anything that could possibly flank his teammates pushing the cart. Okay, now I just want to freeze here for a moment and go over what happened here. Many of you who are familiar with Soldier know about pogoing, which is the act of using a rocket close to the ground to continue low parallel movement to the ground. Blindpyro actually does a triple rocket pogo, which sends him flying past a bunch of enemies, and surprisingly no one seems to realize that he managed to get behind them. This spells death for the hapless people with their backs to them. Now we are into the more enclosed portion of the map, and Blindpyro has to fight by himself against a small horde of enemies. Once again, Blindpyro has to fight off this heavy medic pair. Notice how he completely evades the kill zone of the heavy, while doing massive amounts of damage to him until the heavy drops dead. Blindpyro's fighting style is so awkward for his enemies to try to predict that he is able to stay in the middle of enemy territory even when his teammates are pushed out. Pockets can't kill him, numbers can't kill him, even Ubers can't kill him. Using rapid-fire rockets like this is also tough to predict. Most people are used to soldiers reloading 3 to 4 rockets before re-engaging. Blindpyro just keeps gunning rockets one after another when he's in line of sight, and charging up rocket bursts when he's not.
We have been awarded additional time.
In the tighter areas here, we see more standard soldier tactics being used, such as using corners to kill heavies while avoiding their damage. Blindpyro jumps into the enemy base to get an idea of what's going on. Here he is using a glitch with the Beggar's Bazooka, which is the source of a lot of controversy surrounding it, where he can load 3 rockets and sit on them without it overloading on him. He's using this for the first time this game, and doing a little bit of spawn camping with it. Poor Scout didn't stand a chance. Enough of that, though. Blindpyro spots tons of sentry guns, as per the usual in Badwater Final. He oddly chooses to blow himself up against a wall, though. While this engineered tactic does regularly cause people to want to commit suicide, I don't think it'll keep Blindpyro down for long. Our hero is back in action, and ready to deal with these annoying sentry nests. Or be dealt with by them. Can't win them all, especially when the engineers got shelter to hide in. This is interesting. He attempts to bomb in, but is denied by sentry pushback. He does not give up though, throwing his rocket burst towards the sentry, and successfully taking it out with follow-up rockets. This is probably the toughest phase of the game for Blindpyro, as he's going to have to rely on teammates a little bit to help him out with the distractions for the sentries. He does a great job helping this heavy out here, though he dies in the process. He finally gets a medic, which is something that probably should have happened earlier on. as he can now hold on to a more stable forward position and start working on the sentry guns. The medic, however, demonstrates the biggest mistake you can make as a medic, running out in front of the guy you're healing. Dr. Heavy provides supplemental treatment with a sweet, sweet healing sandwich.
You are not dead! Big surprise!
I absolutely hate these railings, and you can see why. They're bad map design, which causes shots to get blocked by them, and they're completely unnecessary. The medic is back, and Blindpyro is ready to make his move. He has 2 nests to contend with, and will need to use 3 rocket bursts to damage them faster than the engineer can repair them, or kill the engineer so he can't repair them. He is successful, but he has to fight off tons of enemies again. He uses the cart as shelter from the second sentry nest, whilst juking back and forth avoiding the sniper's fire. A good attempt on the nest, but not enough hit points to pull it off. His teammates should be helping out a lot more considering how much of a situation he is creating down below.
Attention. 5 minutes left in the mission. 5 minutes left in the mission.
And here's the moment where it all goes downhill for Red. Ubercharge successfully deployed on Blindpyro and a spy making his move. Red team stands no chance unless they can get their sentry nest back up and fast. Struggle as they might, Red simply cannot handle the rocket salvos from Blindpyro, resulting in the GG. I hope you guys have enjoyed this exceptional gameplay footage from Blindpyro and my commentary on it. I'd like to thank Blindpyro for allowing me to make this episode and being the stellar player that he is. Please check out some of my other stuff if you enjoyed this episode, as it will help to produce further episodes in the future. If you have any ideas for a pub playstyle that you feel is underrated and hasn't gotten its fair exposition, please feel free to leave a comment shouting it out. I'm Sud, and this has been lesser known TF2 tips for pub play. Thanks for watching and have a good one.